Hey, welcome back. It's been a long while since we've had our over and under episode. Reasons being, well, I couldn't stream for a long while, so I can stream now. Luckily, some of the things we're going to be talking about tonight are things that we were going to talk about last month, because guess what? Unfortunately, Trump is still president. So some of the things haven't much changed, which is kind of fortunate because we had planned a show, but we didn't come to fruition. So anyways, I got my co-host here, Chris Atlee. Welcome, buddy.
G'day, how are we?
By the way, I want people to know that you exposed me. I don't mean that in any kind of like strange way. But I did watch your video on your expose on me. Thank you for that, by the way. I like being exposed. Again, take it for what it's worth.
Look, there was a lot of I guess false stories out there, and I think the truth needed to be told, Steve. And you had it coming to you. You absolutely had it coming to you.
You know what? Facts are facts, and you know what? I have to accept certain things. By the way, we're still friends after it, so you know.
Yeah. You've copped it. You've copped it on the chin. So which is, I don't know. That's an Australian expression. Is that a? Yeah. So look, good for you. But look, I'm glad I was able to get the truth out there, and now everyone knows.
Yeah, well, at least Sweet Heathen knows the truth now, because she needs to know these things. So,
well, look, she did actually reply to me that she always knew all along. So it was, it just goes to show. I mean, you can't hide.
She's smart. You can't really fool her on much. Yeah.
No, clearly.
So
has good taste as well, apparently. I hear, but
yeah, there's no accounting for her taste, obviously. But yeah, she is a smart cookie, to say the least. But what I want to talk about tonight. We were going to dive a little bit on Trump, and let's be honest here. Trump is an easy target. Not going to front, right? I mean, you're not one of those people that jump on the Trump, I hate Trump bandwagon. I'm not really either.
No.
But there are certain things that I disagree with.
Well, and I think that's the thing. It's from an outsider perspective, I see a lot of the stuff that's put out there on Trump, and really, it's laughable because I can tell you if Trump wins the election at the end of the year, you can thank a lot of the far left lunatics on Twitter for the crap they're putting out there. You can thank CNN. You can thank those people, because anytime now that Trump does something stupid, most people just roll their eyes and go,
"It's the norm."
It's like it's just the boy who cried wolf. Yeah. You hear wolf, wolf, wolf so many times. Eventually, you just go, yeah, whatever. And so, guess what? All the actual stuff that any politician will do that's bad slips under the radar with his base. It's not changing any minds, hearts, or souls.
Well, I mean, you've heard of the Overton window, which is, in this case, it kind of applies a little bit. But the Overton window, when it comes to Trump, what he's allowed to do, I think you're right. I think the mainstream media has made everything he does into a big fiasco. Now, again, I think there are a lot of fiascos, but CNN has not been. They haven't been honest in the reporting. In some cases, I will agree that I think the mainstream media is not totally honest.
Imagine if Jim Acosta from CNN stumbled across the biggest story that would normally have derailed any presidency. He put it out there. If he puts it out there, no one's going to believe him.
Nobody's going to care. Yeah, no big deal.
Because all he does, it's just on and on and on. It never ends.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Okay, so you would agree, though, there have been some gaffes, let's say, with Trump. I mean, excessive amount.
Of course.
So,
of course.
What do you think would be a significant? Well, yeah, well, sure. I mean, but there's probably more with Trump than any other. But what would you?
What you got to remember with him, though, is Trump's come from the business world. Now, people who come from the business world, he's used to having people around him and being in complete control. He's gone from controlling everything within the organization to having to adjust to working within teams and having advisors and having to work within the bureaucracy. That's not always an easy adjustment. And I see it a lot with people who come from a business background into politics, or even from a business background into organizations. It can be a hard adjustment for them. So you've got to take a bit of that into account. He's not a polished politician, and he's a salesman. I mean, he's a New York real estate salesman. He's always on. He's always selling.
Yeah, he's slick. He's a slick Willie kind of person. Okay, so two things on that. One, what would you think is a significant thing that Trump could do where he would lose a significant portion of his base, especially the evangelicals we're going to be talking about tonight?
Admit that he was an atheist.
No, I don't think that would. No, because they would just say, look, hey, he was an atheist. Now he found God. Good for him.
No.
Admit that he's now an atheist. Okay.
If you were to come out now and say, no, look, I'm an atheist, that would, I think, it wouldn't necessarily get people voting for Biden, but it would get people not voting for him. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe they might go and vote for Kanye.
Yeah.
He's big in the evangelical scene now, isn't he?
Well,
So
I mean, he thinks he's a god. I mean, they all Kanye West and Trump both have the same kind of narcissistic personality, but Kanye West hasn't done anything to even do the preliminaries to run for president. I mean, he has no hope whatsoever, and if he did. But you're right though. I think that if Trump professed, hey, look, I've been BSing all along. I don't really believe any of this. By the way, I hate getting into the mind of somebody who, when we talk about beliefs, this is my epistemological issue that I have in doing so. But I think you can gauge people by their actions. I don't think for a second Trump believes any of this.
Absolutely not.
None.
Absolutely not. Have a look when they all get together and they're all praying for him. They've all got their eyes closed and they're all into it like this.
I think I have
and
some of those,
he's
yes.
sitting there with his eyes open, kind of looking a little bit awkward, smirking almost. It's just watch him next time. It's like he's biting the inside of his cheeks.
I threw up. If you're watching the outside, I threw up a slide of that, and it's exactly what you're saying. He's the center of attention, and this goes back to what you were saying about he's a businessman. And he's always been like the number one in his organizations, right? He wants to be the leader, all eyes on him. And this is, if you look at the photo, he's sitting there, head bowed, trying to come say, hey, look, I'm praying to some kind of deity. Well, everybody around him kind of puts him as the center of attention.
Yeah.
And it's a theme. It is actually a theme with him.
That's actually not an uncommon evangelical thing. The praying for someone and praying for strength and people getting around and putting them at the center. That's not anything. That's not a case of they're looking at him as a god. Back when I was in church, we used to get church leaders and we'd all get around them in a similar way and put hands on them and pray for them and sort of gather around them. So that's not an uncommon evangelical thing to do. But yeah, I don't buy for a second that he's buying it. And look, I'm like you. I don't want to guess what anyone's beliefs are, but I think you can look at the evidence, you can look at actions, and certainly I've been around enough evangelicals to know who is one and who isn't one. Even in the churches, we could always pick who was just going for the sake of going and who was a full-blown Bible-believing Christian.
There's some people that obviously just go through the motions, right?
Absolutely, there is. Of course, there is. It's for some people, it's a social event. For some people, it's their support structure. People have got a whole variety. Some people just go because it's what they've always done. It's what their family does. It's expected of them. There's a whole lot of reasons.
Yeah, well, like for example, like this picture here. I'm not going to try to read his mind. So this is completely opinions and subjective. But I got to tell you, when I look at something like this, to me, I think he's thinking to himself, hey, look at all these people paying umbrage to me. That he's the one that they're praying to. He's not thinking for a second here this has anything to do with, I am, bowing my head to the Lord or anything like that. Not in the very least. He is the center of attention. No. He knows it, and he's loving the adoration.
I don't know if it's so much the adoration that he's seeing the adoration to himself. And once again, we're trying to jump into his mind, and frankly, the mind of someone who's very complex and probably thinks in a way very different to you or I. But if I were to somebody guess, I think he's probably thinking, I'm just going to let these people do it. When they're doing this, I'm going up in the polls. This is good for my base. My base will like this. This is going to.
It's all political, then. You think it's just political? Yeah, it's just one big political show.
Can you imagine? I mean, look, I come from a country that 10% of the population is church going, and probably half of that are actual, Bible believing Christians. So if we're talking about 95%, or even 90% of the population of my country is not Christian, but we've had one atheist prime minister, and she got in. Well, she wasn't elected. I'll put it that way. She got in after. It's a long story, but we had a prime minister that was elected. She challenged him for the leadership, took the job. She was actually never voted in. And in her book, she says Australia wasn't ready for an atheist prime minister. And we are an atheist nation. We are not a Christian nation by any means. But our Prime Minister at the moment is very much a religious person. The Prime Minister before him was probably fairly similar to Trump, and he was, well, not in policies or actions, but a very successful business person who I would be very surprised if he had those beliefs, but still went along with it, still did the church services, still did so if that's the situation in Australia, where we're an atheist nation. What do you think is going to happen in America, where it's even Bernie Sanders comes out and says he's religious? You can't be a politician in America and be an atheist, and it's a sad, sad situation you've got over there. But it's the reality of it.
I would agree that's the case. So would you say that's kind of a litmus type test? I mean, there's a few things in American politics that are litmus subjects. One of them is if the person is religious or not. If they have a God belief. The other one is abortion is a huge issue. That is a litmus test for a lot of voters, whether you're pro-choice or pro-life. But when it comes to these evangelicals, I think that it's such a significant portion of their lives that if Trump wasn't doing these things to placate that base, if he wasn't trying to put on the show that, hey, look, I'm a believer, if he couldn't rest on his voting record, he couldn't rest on anything that he's done. He couldn't rest on the political positions that he has, because the evangelicals don't agree with them on a few things.
No, a lot of his policies, Trump and his policies are generally very misunderstood. Trump is an old school protectionist, which is a historical American position. It was, the position of, Roosevelt. It was we look after America, we look internally first and worry about the world later. Now that position changed following the Second World War and, with the Cold War, and that changed American foreign policy and American domestic policy as well. What's happened is Trump's gone back to a lot of that. Let's put America first. And look, it's from an economic point of view. Initially, he hasn't done a bad job. However, the problem with the protectionist policies is, while they're good short term, long term in the current, in the world as it is now, in a very interconnected world, it's not sustainable. And we're seeing that. And we're seeing that, China's getting their back up. A lot of other nations are starting to trade elsewhere, because that's going to happen. Because, while it's good for Americans to buy American made, as an Australian, why am I going to pay more to buy American made? I don't have that level of patriotism. It makes no difference to me as an Australian if I buy something American made or if I buy something Chinese made, although we're not friends with China at the moment. But, it could be Indian made or Thai made, any of those nations where it's substantially cheaper to manufacture.
Yeah, consumers don't really care where things are made as long as they're of decent quality for the most part. Now, again, there are some countries that manufacture things at very cheap prices and they're very cheap products. But, do you remember when Trump was on some late night show? I think it was maybe the Colbert Report or something. But he was talking about his ties. And his ties, he's always like, for American made, but these were made in China. Right. Which, again, I got no problem with that. I don't think there's much of a problem with outsourcing when it comes to manufacturing, because, again, it keeps the cost down, and there's not everything can be made in America. And there's just they've refined the systems over in those countries to be more cost effective. I get that. Right. But, like you said, China's wasn't it? Who was the most favored nation status at one time? Was it China?
Well, for America. Who
was the most favored nation status for America? I don't remember. As far as trade. I don't remember, but we don't have.
Mexico.
Was it Mexico? Well, you talk about with NAFTA and.
I'd probably have to double check that. I can tell you Australia's, but I would probably have to double check that. But I would imagine we have
good reports.
China does a lot of trade. I mean, it's Australia and America do a lot of trade, but we wouldn't be your biggest trading partner. You're probably one of our biggest trading partners, but it's obviously we're a lot smaller. About a tenth smaller. Now, there would have been a lot of trade with China, but I would imagine that probably Mexico would be a bigger trading partner just because of proximity and population. But I could be that's an educated guess.
I Am Moon, $5 super chat. Two of my favorites. Heart, thank you, I Am Moon. By the way, super chats are split with Chris. He does get a percentage of the super chats. Yay! So he can retire early, help his political aspirations.
Well, the good thing is the American dollar is really strong at the moment compared to the Australian dollar. So look, I could retire off this.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? We're done. Good night, guys.
So thank you, everyone. We'll see you later.
Okay, so going back to these photo opportunities that Trump has had, I mean, you're seeing a pattern here, right? And this is why I picked these.
Of course,
these photographs. These are not just arbitrary. Hey, let's have a prayer session. These are staged photo opportunities to placate to the evangelical base to make them
Hang
believe
on,
that
are
he's a
you
believer.
suggesting that a politician has stage photo opportunities?
Yeah, I know
Come
it's
on.
it's it's
No,
it's out
no,
there. I
stop.
mean, it's a crazy conspiratorial thing. I get that, but we all understand that they all do it, right? And it's not even necessarily the president doing it. Like I remember, Obama had a photo where he was bowing his head in front of an oil derrick, right? And he was actually just bowing his head, talking to somebody. He was just looking down while he was talking to somebody next to him. But of course, they cropped that out and they made it sound like he was trying to worry and had all this on his mind about oil situation or whatever it was, or some war that was going on. It was basically the tabloid. I don't know if it was Time or what it was, but they made it appear by the photograph to be something completely different from what it was. And this happens all throughout media. I mean, we're constantly bombarded by images that if you actually knew really the story behind it, like kind of what we did last time, we were trying to take an objective approach of, hey, look with this photo, what does it seem to us? Probably wasn't the exact case of what was going on in reality, right?
No, it's the story that they want to sell. It's what's going to get people clicking, so they get more ad revenue. It's media, and it's frustrating because media now, and I call it traditional media or legacy media, whatever you want to call it, is very different to what it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It was very much journalistic. I think there was a lot more integrity back then. Now it's, I mean, look, the reality is you've got Fox News who are in the US who are staunch Republicans. You are going to get right-wing commentary and right-wing points of view from them. You've got CNN, MSNBC, ABC who sit on the left, and you are going to get, especially with CNN, you're going to get left-wing views. Everything Trump does is bad. There's no journalistic integrity anywhere there. It's all opinion pieces. There's actually no reporting on the news. It's the news they want you to see. It's the news they want you to hear. That's why so many people are turning to YouTube because, or other new media platforms, because at least you're going to get some objective opinions. At least you're going to get some objective reporting. You're going to get better news than you would in any of these legacy media organizations.
Yeah, I mean, remember back in the old days, you had like Walter Cronkite, you had Hugh Downs, you had 2020, you had even NPR News. Nowadays, though, it's not like that. And I got to admit, I mean, I'm going to be forthright. I used to watch Hannity and Combs, right? And I did tend to side with Hannity most of the time. And I also watched Rush Limbaugh. I read both of his books, The Way Things Ought to Be and See, I Told You So. And by the way, I didn't think they were that horrible. I think that they were probably lambasted more than they should. However, I have noticed over the 20, 30 years that those were out. I mean, seriously, I remember watching Rush Limbaugh, like basically when I was a kid. Literally, he had a TV show, and I liked that show. But watching him change, it's unrecognizable, his positions now, right? And Fox News, when it first came out, I didn't think it was that bad. And of course somebody was out there, like you said, oh, they're horrible about this, horrible about that, which just didn't do anything for me, right? I wanted specific instances, but they really never pointed to. Now there actually are specific instances, and they have gone from, just being slightly right of center to full on just
they're
beyond.
They're the media arm of the Republican Party. The same CNN, MSNBC, they're the media arm of the Democrats.
But is that what we want for news? I mean, that's not news.
No, but the problem is, and look, in a way, society's done it to itself, because the reality is, if people wanted real news and they were going to engage with real news, that's what they'd put out, because people would then click on it and it would make them money. Society has dumbed itself down to the point where everyone wants to live in a bubble. I mean, you jump on Twitter. I mean, it's always interesting for me on Twitter because, being someone who's a conservative on Twitter, Twitter is a left-wing bubble. I feel like I'm the only conservative in the world on there sometimes.
Now, wait, are you using conservative in your lingo, in your vernacular, in your jargon?
I'm using it in the correct
because
lingo,
in your expose you exposed me as being leftist, which was weird because I do tend to the right in American standards, which I think is the left in your lands. Wait, wherever you hail from.
Well, look, it's the problem. The problem with American politics is religion plays too much of a part in it. So what is a conservative in America would not be considered a conservative pretty much anywhere else in the world. Conservative values are very much just staying out of people's business, letting people do what they want to do, whereas American conservatism is basically Christian theocracy. You
Yeah, I
know,
mean, to some
they
degree,
want to
yeah, I don't
control
hold to that,
who can get
obviously.
married, who can do
Yeah.
what, you know, and that's not conservatism.
I see. I think a little bit differently. Now I'm more old school when it comes to like little right leaning. Oh my goodness. I mean, like the more like the old school Republican type thing, right? And I think that's more like fiscal conservative but social liberal,
Yeah,
right? For when it
yeah.
comes to like individual rights and autonomy, and it comes to things
Mhm.
like libertarianism, I'm all for that, right? So I would be left on the spectrum when it comes to those kinds of things. But I do believe in very strong socially, very strong fiscal conservatism. I think we should get rid of earmarks. I think we should get rid of riders. I think we should reform our entire political landscape, which the conservatives, for the Americans, generally don't. They like the status quo. They like to have the power base.
Hmm.
And as Trump, kind of typifies, he's the authoritarian version of that in my eyes. He basically is like, look, we are the conservative party, and he is the authority figure to look at for that. And that's where I draw the line, because I don't. When I say I'm a conservative or I tend to conservatism, it has nothing to do with when he's propping himself up there to say, hey, look, I'm standing up for your rights. Matter of fact, let me ask you this: do you remember back when Trump was talking about what was it? Oh yeah, he called it. Uh, what do you say it was? Let me see. Oh my goodness, I forgot what he actually said. Oh yeah, he said he was talking about Second Corinthians, right? And he
Mhm.
said two Corinthians 3:17. Do you remember that instead of Second Corinthians 3:17? Do you remember that debacle?
Oh no, I
Okay. Well, you
no, but
were
that's actually quite
you were a
funny.
theologian
Yeah,
for quite some time, and you were a pastor.
Hmm.
It's Second Kings, Second Chronicles. This
Yeah,
is
Second Corinthians. Yeah.
yeah, Second Corinthians. Um, so he called it two Corinthians 3:17, and what that actually was now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit is Lord, there is liberty, right? Trying to relate it to like, oh, I'm standing up for liberty, God, and America. By the way, the
If
Pastors
you
for
can get
Liberty has
Jesus
nothing to
and
do with
liberty into the
America.
same kind of same thing, yeah, that's a big winner over there.
Yeah, well, that's what they want to relate, right? I mean, they want to
Hmm.
instantiate this notion that America was founded on Christian principles, which, by the way, I vehemently disagree with. I do not think it was founded on Christian principles. I think, matter of fact, America was founded on the principle of we don't want any kind of church and state mixture. We want a complete wall and separation
No,
between them.
it was founded on Western principles, which
Which
at
is
the
fine. I
time
agree with that.
the church was a part of, and I guess some version of Christianity. Certainly, I think Christianity evolved alongside of Western society to an extent, and I think people will often confuse that, say they're Christian principles when realistically it's just two parallel sets of values that have kind of evolved side by side because they've been a part of the same society. That's really what that is.
Yeah, but going into like the whole, when he said like, two Corinthians, it shows that he really doesn't read any of this stuff, right? I mean,
No, of course he doesn't.
I don't think he's ever opened the Bible. Matter of fact, if you said, "Hey, what's John 3:16," which every Christian who professes Christianity probably would know, he probably would have no idea what that passage even is.
Maybe. I look. And look, once again, this is my opinion. I'm not a mind reader, but if he was in my congregation, I'd be trying to encourage him to find Jesus. I'll put it that way because I don't think he knows
In some
Jesus.
cases, it might be better. I mean, again, people know my stance. I don't really care whether you're a believer or non-believer. I just I want to know the reasons why you hold particular positions. That's what I'm
Hmm.
fascinated to talk about, right? And so, if he became a Christian, right, he was a true blue believer in Christ, and he actually became a decent person. I'm okay with that. And I'm not saying that when you become a Christian, you automatically become a decent person. Clearly, that's not the case.
But even if he did become a decent person, the media's still not going to report that.
Of course not. No, no.
No. And look, we don't know what people are like behind closed doors. All you see
Well,
is
you
the
do because you have
snippet.
hidden
You see the
cameras in my
snippet.
room, but I wasn't going to get into that. I
Well,
don't
that's why
judge.
I did the
Yeah.
expose on you.
I figured I found out how you got your sources for that.
Yeah, see, it's not what
Yeah,
you know. It's who you
pretty
know.
covert. You got to spy everywhere, just like everybody else. Spies everywhere.
Uh,
Can't trust anybody.
It's absolutely the Australian security services. We're all over it. We don't have much else to do at the moment, so I'll just send them after you. Yeah, we've got a big military. It's called we've got a massive military. It's called the US military. So, are you kidding? Are you kidding? The natural resources we've got here, if we weren't friends with America, we'd be in a lot of trouble. Well, actually, no, that's not true because we do actually have a very decent, very modern military. Actually, our military is probably one of the best trained in the world. But on a scalable size, yeah. Hmm, hmm. But yeah, obviously on a scalable size. But that being said, I guess the threats to the north. I mean, China's a bit of a worry for us at the moment, but there's a lot of things. China's actually been infiltrating Australian government. We've just had a member of parliament in Victoria, who New South Wales, the state that I'm in, which is the largest state, has had to, basically he's been kicked out of the party because it turns out that his office was full of Chinese spies.
I lost
quite
my
literally
sound for a
full of
second.
Chinese
Sorry about
spies.
that. I fixed it. Yeah, I was just saying to Chris that about why I don't think Australia and Canada need militaries because nobody wants to take them over. But I mean, the Australians have a great military; they really do. But I just don't see why. I've just never heard anybody
Because
go, "Hey, we're gonna go to
we,
war with them Australians. We're gonna get that kangaroo meat."
we sit on one of the biggest. I think we sit on one of the biggest oil reserves. We sit on one of the biggest gas reserves. Iron ore, nickel. We've got so much stuff in the ground. Just there's a lot of desert.
Absolutely.
There's a lot underneath it. A lot underneath.
And kangaroo meat.
Kangaroo meat's great.
Yeah, I've never tried it. I would though. I mean, it's sad because I like kangaroos, but I would definitely try.
Oh, hang on. I'm being told that you're muted.
No, I've already fixed it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So if you're looking at the, let's go back to like the picture here. If you notice the person standing on Trump's left, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's Paula White, right? His
That
evangelical
Paula White, yeah.
I guess guru.
Incidentally, you know what? She's got something in common with Trump that probably not a lot of people realize.
What's that?
She's on to marriage number 3 as well.
You mean Christians get divorced and remarried and things of that nature too? Although I guess it's only
when it's convenient.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
To be fair, it's usually the Catholic Church that they have. You go through all this marriage counseling things before you even get married, and then it's once you're married in the eyes of the church, you're always married unless the Pope has to give you like a dissolution of marriage, right?
Which he doesn't do too often, I don't think. But no, she's actually married to one of the guys from Journey. Remember the band from the 70s and 80s, Journey?
Steve Perry. Well, she's not married to Steve Perry, but Steve Perry.
No, she's not married to Steve Perry, yeah. But yeah, she's married to a guy from Journey. I thought that was very interesting. And apparently there was a time where her and Benny Hinn were seen leaving hand in hand. So
Benny Hinn is a piece of work. We could have a whole show on one of these days.
We could probably do a whole series on Benny.
Yeah, I don't know who she's married to. I just pulled up, I have her Wikipedia here. She is considered to be a pastor, author, televangelist, but she has some pretty oddball views, to say the least.
Yeah, well, I believe she's a non-Trinitarian.
Is she? Because that's unusual for an evangelical. Because I mean, most of them.
That's what I thought. It was when I was doing a bit of research on it. It popped up that she'd been criticised for being non-Trinitarian, which I thought, okay, well, that's really because they were complaining that when she led the inauguration or the invocation at the inauguration, that Trump had let a heretic into the White House because she was non-Trinitarian, which odd. That surprised me.
Yeah, because I mean, again, I don't know her belief system. She might be a true blue believer, probably is, but that's why she probably is able to say, "Look,
maybe
I believe I don't believe in the Trinity," and take the heat for it, right? Because Trump's going to believe or say he believes whatever the way the wind blows. She might actually be a true believer, and from what I hear in her intonations and what she's saying, I think she probably is some kind of a radicalized evangelical. Yeah, but she's the special advisor to Center for Faith and Opportunity Initiatives. Wow, what a name for a title, man.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. When you look at it all, I mean the fact that he has to have an advisor for spiritual matters, or for evangelical. It's almost like an ambassador to the evangelicals.
It is. It really is. It's an emissary from them. It tells me a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And once again, and I'm kind of keep beating this drum, but it just comes back to I don't think there's any way that he is a Christian. I actually think, whether America knows it or not, they've probably got their first atheist president.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised one day if it comes out that's the case. I mean, in fact, there's a book that just came out from his niece, or is coming out on Tuesday. They tried to prevent it from coming out, but it's supposed to be a pretty in-depth expose on the Trump family. His niece, I guess, has a PhD, I think in psychology or maybe a psychologist, but she does an in-depth, profile of him, which again, there's some understanding that people in the psychological fields don't really give evaluations of people they haven't personally, had a conversation with. But I don't think that's really necessary. I think that's kind of a guide.
There's also issues there over the inheritance from Trump's father.
Exactly.
There was a feeling within the Trump family that because Donald was successful, he shouldn't take his share, and it should just be split amongst the others. And he went, no, I'm taking.
Well, he got a $40 million initial loan
well,
too. That kind of helps out. I mean, if you're starting off with $40 million, you pretty well have a huge edge going forward, don't you think?
Well, yes and no. It wasn't necessarily so much a loan as it was they went into business together.
Oh,
so Trump and his old man went into business
Trump
together.
and the niece went into business together, or Trump and his father went into business together?
Trump and his father went into business together. Okay. So that's how he started, and they bought, I can't remember, it might have been Cincinnati. They bought a rundown block. They did it up, they sold it, they made a profit, and then Trump used the money that he got from the sale, I guess his share of the profit, and that's where he launched himself. But I mean, it's his brothers and sisters, they're all reasonably successful people, just in different fields. They went into, I believe, one's a judge. I think one, I can't remember, a doctor. I don't know what the PhD's in, but yeah. So they're all reasonably successful,
I get that.
Which is easy when you come from a privileged situation.
Sure. I by the way, but I think a lot of it deals with nepotism. I mean, he's actually even said, he's all fine with nepotism. He's hired, his kids to be in part of the cabinet positions. Yeah. But there's some accusations that he actually hired somebody to take his SAT. Now, again, don't know if it's true or not, but that's something that she's, saying that happened. Now, that would be easy to verify if the person who actually took the SAT was still around, right? And it's not a make or break situation. I think that if it actually came out that he falsified his SATs and had somebody else do it for him. As you pointed out earlier, there's so many different things being wrong with him. Nobody's going to care. It's not going to be a make or break by any means.
I mean, look, my reaction to that is, it's just another story.
Just another story, yeah.
I'm waiting to hear that he also, he kills kittens and shoots puppies, Well,
if it came out not only he was an atheist, but he was actually a Satanist, now that would probably be pretty damning. Get it? Damning, pun intended.
It's very good. Yeah, well done.
Thank you. I try. I get a few good ones every now and then.
That was very punny of you. I thought that was good.
But I do think that the expose that she did on him by the book, that's why I haven't read yet, but I do want to read it. She points out that he always throughout his entire life had to be the center, the ego person, and he never had the skill set to actually pull it off. And he wanted the affection of his father. He wanted the approval of his father. He never thought that he deserved a lot of these things. As far as he didn't have the intelligence level to really excel in anything, and so he needed people around him to constantly tell him, "Donald, you're the best. You're so smart." And I think that makes sense because I see that nowadays. That's what his cabinet is.
No, see, there's something I don't buy there, and that's Trump is not an unintelligent person. Look, people might
I disagree with you. Show's over. We're done. We had a disagreement.
That's it. I'm cancelled.
Yep. Cancel culture.
Look, I mean, let's not forget. This is a guy who, whether you like his politics or not, he has been successful in business. He's been successful in construction. He's been successful in a lot of different things. He's had his failures, like anyone in business does, but he's managed to stay relevant and up there. I mean, for so many years now, and becoming the president of the United States on a very different platform to a traditional political platform, that's not an easy feat. If it was an easy feat, everyone would do it. So I think that people often confuse dislike for someone with, calling them, stupid or an idiot. It's like they did the same thing. And it always seems to be, the the left accusing the right of that. It's it's George W. Bush. I mean, he was painted as a fool and an idiot. He was far from it.
No, I don't think Bush was either. I don't think Jimmy Carter was either. Jimmy Carter was actually
no, absolutely not.
I think he went to nuke school as well, if I'm not mistaken. But no, I disagree with Trump
because it's always painted.
Yeah, but I disagree with Trump because when you listen to Trump, he is inarticulate. He is not educated very well. His ways of trying to persuade people uses the same type of rhetoric. I don't think he's an intelligent person. It's not because I dislike him. It's not because of his politics. Well, I mean, maybe it works because
he's president.
But it works because the people he's talking to, that's at their level. That's the base.
So what you're saying is
for.
he's smart enough to know his market.
But is that the case? Is he smart enough to know that's just the way it is? And people around him have used that to kind of sell it, right? Because I think you're only as smart as people you surround yourself with in some cases.
Well,
and
certainly
he has
helps.
a cabinet that's around him. By the way, how many people has he fired from his cabinet that he is not supporting him the way that he wants? Because as his niece has pointed out in the book, supposedly,
he's got
loyalty
an ego.
is number one with him.
He's got an ego. Look, there's no question the guy has an ego. You don't get to the level of success that he does without having an ego. And I don't care if you're Donald Trump, Richard Branson,
nothing wrong with having
Elon
an
Musk.
ego, but what has he had done? What is it about him that makes him so egotistical? Other than he thinks he is the smartest person in the room always. He's the one that everybody loves and as adoration because that's the way he's been treated all his life.
Because people crawl up his backside. That's why.
Right, exactly.
And that's why he goes through so many people in government. And it comes back to he's a business person who is trying to succeed in government. And they're two different things. Like in business, people will be going, yes, Donald, no, Donald. Donald makes the decisions and that's it. If people don't like it, bad luck. Whereas in government, he makes the decisions and then, Congress will go, no, we're knocking it back. And he's got to fight this fight. He's got to negotiate here.
But he thinks he actually makes the decisions unilaterally. He thinks he has the empowerment to do certain things, which constitutionalists and people in the government have told him, no, you're not allowed to do these kind of things. But he doesn't care. He thinks he's such an authoritarian of an autocracy that it's all about him. That's it. He has actually said, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere along the line that his word, what he says is the law of the land, basically. I don't want to say that's exactly his wording, but that's certainly what I think that he has implied.
Look, I think that's his attitude.
Yes.
I don't argue with that in any way, shape, or form. That's absolutely his attitude. But once again, I don't think that necessarily translates to he's an unintelligent. Now, do I think he's the smartest person in the world? Do I think he's got a 160 IQ? No, absolutely not.
What does he know about? Okay, so he knows a little bit about business. I'll give him that. I've noticed this, Chris. When he starts talking about the economy, he's much more eloquent and has a deeper understanding of the economy than when he's talking about foreign policy, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree with that? Because when he's talking about foreign policy and things of that nature, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
No, of course not. Well, no, because that's not his area. But when it comes to economic, that's what he does. It's what he's done for years. He understands money. He understands
because he's a salesperson, right?
Do it.
That's why.
Exactly. He's a New York real estate agent.
Right, exactly.
That's what he is. Yes. That's exactly what he is.
So, I mean, if you're going to equate that to intelligence, I'm not necessarily think that that's the case. I think that's a skill that he has. I think it's a marketable skill that he has. And if he was back doing New York real estate, he would excel in it as he has. But that I don't equate to a measure of intelligence because I think to me, intelligence is the ability to learn things, not so much what you know, but your ability to comprehend certain concepts. And I don't think he has the ability to understand these things. A lot of things.
Book knowledge, though. I mean, it's not everyone can have a PhD. And look, there's a lot of dumb people with PhDs, and there's a lot of very intelligent people without them. Look, I don't think that he's the genius that he makes out to be. I don't think he's a genius in any way, shape, or form.
Not even remotely so.
I would say that he was probably more intelligent than the average. But that's, and once again, that's an opinion, but I just base that on what I've seen. I base that on his level of success. I don't think he's I think he knows exactly what he's doing. I'll put it that way. I don't think he's, when he dumbs his rhetoric down a little bit, he's dumbing it down for his audience. He's talking, if you want to have a conversation, and this is something I learned when I used to be in sales, you've got to talk the same language as the person you're trying to sell to. So he needs to bring it down. He needs to be all about God. He needs to be evangelical. He needs to feed in and push the button for some of those fears. We're going to build a wall. It's, all these catchy slogans that people can repeat. Make America great again. You know, it's marketing.
Yeah,
It's
no,
marketing,
I
it's
agree. I think
sales.
he's good at the marketing. But let me. Okay, so this is
Hell
this
yeah.
is the part where I throw you under the bus, like everybody's told you that I'm going to eventually do.
Oh, I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, it's got to. By the way, real quick on that, I got to say, I treat people the way they treat me. Everybody kind of starts off neutral. And as I progressively know somebody better and better, how they treat me is proportional to how they treat them. And it's kind of funny because the people that I no longer associate with, I recognize there were problems with, and I just don't want them in my life. And they've literally been around for years, some of them, demonstrating that I was right in my positions to begin with, that I shouldn't have them around when they have that kind of obsessive type of personality. So it's kind of it's not even a self-fulfilling prophecy. It is that I was right because they're still around when no means no. I don't want to have anything to do with them. But even people that I respected at one time that I don't have any association with, I just don't do anything with. I don't talk about them. I have nothing to do with them. So I don't throw people under the bus like people think. But I'm going to throw Chris under the bus right now. Ken Hovind. Do you think Ken Hovin's a smart man? Because Ken Hovind uses the same manipulation techniques I mean, we both agree that he's a con man.
Ken Hovind is a con man.
Yeah, we agree with that. But is he a smart con man? Because the reasoning you're using for Trump, one could probably make a pretty substantial argument for Ken Hovind. And this is going to be our last show at this point, I think.
I'm about to throw up in my mouth a little bit, but I don't think Ken Hovind.
Yeah, I want you to hear Ken. So listen, sound clip time.
I can't bear to say it, but
say it. Ken Hovind smart.
I don't think.
Don't do it. You'll never live it down. I'm not gonna let you do it.
Actually, you know what? I'll tell you why Kent Hovind isn't intelligent. Because if he was intelligent, he would have not spent 10 years in jail.
Well, no, that's not that's greed, right? I mean, that's just straight up greed. The way he dishonestly tried to structure his payments.
Oh yeah, but it was his actions, the way he carried himself in court. That certainly didn't do him any favors. That being said, he's come out of it as this, it's
pariah,
the martyred hero. He's
suing for $500 million.
He's never ever going to win that.
Well, of course not.
Money.
It's not for that.
He's not going to win a cent, and it will probably get thrown out of court at the first juncture. Look, Kent. I don't think that Kent Hovind is really a young earth creationist. I think Kent Hovind is a con man. And look, just because I disagree with him and I think he is morally bankrupt and a giant piece of shit, that doesn't necessarily equate to a lack of intelligence. It's probably more he's using his powers for evil.
But being a master manipulator is not a sign of intelligence to me. I mean, unless you're trying to go for like the Machiavellian type thing, say, well, this person, is the Machiavellian, ends justify the means kind of person, and he knows how to get there by doing all these evil machinations. Sure, that takes a little bit of
that being said, Hovind isn't overly successful as well. I mean,
well, no, I disagree. I think for what he has done, he is pretty successful. He has literally got he's changed the minds of hundreds of thousands of people to dumb them down to the point where they are willing to throw away reality just because Ken Hovind has put out these ridiculous things that he thinks goes against evolution and science. And so he has had a huge effect on people. I think that's pretty, powerful. And
I'll throw it back at you. I'll throw it back at you because you've had the conversation. I've never spoken to Ken Hovind in my life. What do you think? Is he an intelligent person?
No.
You know him better than I would.
No, I think, okay, here's the thing on Kent. And I kind of agree with you. And I hate doing this, reading people's minds, right? I hate saying, well, this is, whether they believe or not. But I got to tell you, just by actions. And Kent off air and on air, a little bit different too. But I've had a lot of conversations with Kent, dozens. I can tell you right now, I don't think for a second he buys into his stuff. I just don't. But I don't know if he used to. And that's the hardest part. And for example, Eric Hovind, I don't think Eric Hovind believes either. In fact, he's not as skilled at the rhetoric that Kent is. But I think Kent may have believed at one time, but over time he has used it just to garnish attention and adoration. It's all to feed his ego.
There's no way that you can spend that much time studying a topic like that and come to the same conclusion.
Yeah, when he uses the same rhetoric that's already been debunked.
There is no way that Ken Ham believes that the Earth is 6,000 years old.
I don't believe that either.
That's just I think he's at the point where he's realised, well, I've been doing it long enough now that if I stop, then I lose everything. I'm just going to keep going with it and enjoy my comfortable life.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Now, there are some true believers. Like I can tell you right now, like Dr. Humphreys. I am absolutely convinced Dr. Humphreys is a true blue young Earth creationist believer. Why? I have had correspondence with him. I know correspondence that he's had with other people, and he's thoroughly does believe what he believes. However, lately he has been at least allowing a little bit change of certain things, because he was called off for some math stuff, and the problem is that math is objective, right? Math has nothing to do whether the Earth is 6,000 years old. 2 + 2 is 4 is going to be the same whether you believe the Earth is 6,000 years old or not. And his math was in error. He couldn't really get around that, so he has changed a little bit, and he's willing to at least have a little bit more of the dialogue and accept the fact that, okay, maybe there might be some issues with things he was saying with the rate project. So, but I'm absolutely convinced that he's a true believer. But Kent, no, and Eric, no, and Ray Comfort, no, and
right.
He's probably even the worst. Ray Comfort, I got to tell you right now, Ray Comfort, I think is a straight up BS artist, completely 100% from the get go.
Yeah, absolutely. I see some of the stuff he does, and I've got a background in marketing. I look at some of the marketing techniques he's using. Right. I'm just like, man, this is high level stuff.
He's creative. I mean, the whole banana thing, creative, and he knew exactly what he was doing with that. There was nothing unplanned about that.
No, but he plays himself as, I'm the simple fool, I'm the lovable guy.
That's all an act that he does.
Yeah. I think I've seen something in the chat there. Aaron Ra secretly believes in the young Earth creationists.
Wouldn't that be something, right? No. Aaron definitely doesn't accept young Earth creationism. I gotta tell you, I still like Aaron a lot. I really do. I mean, he doesn't have any fondness for me because we disagree philosophically speaking, and he doesn't like to correct himself. I mean, I used to believe that he does like to correct himself, and he used to tell me, "Look, if you think I'm wrong, tell me." And I did, and he didn't like that. And not only did I tell him he's wrong, I actually showed him with evidence, like academic support. And I think that was a little bit too much for him. So he has a huge bias against me. But it's a shame because I have a lot of respect for Aaron, especially on his work with phylogeny. We don't diverge on the biology at all. I mean, 100%. I think we're right down the line when it comes to, things he talks about the foundational, what is it, the foundational falsehoods of creationism. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And so, when he had his debate with Ken Hovind on the Non Sequitur show, one of the things that we did was we didn't allow Kent to have 50% of the time, and that was by design. I'm going to tell you right now, we never told him that he was going to get 50%. Now, when he came on my channel,
Kent's he's gonna snip that, don't you?
No, and that's fine. We know he knows this. This has been made public ages ago, because he was a little bit dishonest about that. He said he was promised 50% time, and when you ask him for where we ever say that, we never did. But what happened was he would get 50% time on my channel when we have a debate like with King Crocoduck. King Crocoduck did three wonderful discussions with Ken Hovind on my personal channel, Steve McRae. And, I did give him 50% of the time, right? But he seemed to have thought in his mind that he was going to get the same deal on the Non Sequitur show, which we never promised. Matter of fact, I knew going in, there's probably the last time he would actually associate with us because I knew Aaron would destroy him. And guess what happened?
Yeah. It wasn't even close.
No, I mean, just obliterated which we expected. No. And that wasn't a setup. Again, we knew going in that was going to happen. And by the way, fun fact, Kent's secretary that I was dealing with at the time was named Rhonda. He has a new one now. But I've recently have gotten in touch with Rhonda on Facebook. She's actually a Facebook friend of mine. She's no longer with Ken Hovind's ministry.
Mm-hmm. She's not one of the ex-wives, is she?
She's not an ex-wife, no. And, she still believes. She's still a believer. But from what I understand, again, this is not from her, and this is off the record. You asked me for a source. I won't be able to give it to you, but I'm upfront with this. But from what I understand, one of the reasons why this is why I actually got in touch with her, and I'm going to be having this conversation with her. She said she would come on, but I from what I understand, she left the ministry because Kent wanted her to do certain things she wasn't comfortable doing, and leave it at that. But I mean, he has a workforce that works for him for free.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else a cult leader would want. Now, granted, I mean, I got thousands of people that work for me for free, supposedly, right, to do my every bidding.
You've got a cult, don't you?
Yeah, it's one that I don't. Yeah. It's funny is because I have these super secret meetings that I don't even know about.
Yeah, look, I was going to ask you about those because
You're not
I'm not getting
invited, no.
invited, and everyone's told me I'm in the cult now. So let me in.
You know, it's so funny about the skeptic community. Is that they're all about diversification. They're all about free thinking. And again, I like free thinking. I'm a huge fan of free thinking, right? The skeptic term I have a little umbrage with because, again, philosophical terminology is a little bit different, but I understand what they mean by skeptic. This basically means,
Yeah.
hey, look, if you take a picture and you see an orb, the first thing that comes to my mind is it's not going to be some kind of angel. It's going to be a dust particle of some sort. That if you want to use skepticism for ordinary doubt like that, I get it, right? Fine. I think we're all on the same page with that. We don't look for supernatural causations on every little thing, right? But they're so promoting these types of free thinking. But when you have your own independent views, you can't have that. You stepped out of line.
Oh no, heaven forbid.
Now you're one of Steve's cult members when all you did was express your own personal views, which I've been doing for 7 years, expressing my own personal views. That's all.
And straight up, I don't agree with everything you say.
And I don't expect
we've
you
had
to.
This conversation.
You're fired.
It's I understand what
You're
your
one of the
view
worst
of
minions
atheism
of all
is.
time.
Yeah, it's I don't necessarily agree with that, but I'm also not into philosophy, and realistically, it doesn't really matter because under your definition, I'm an atheist anyway. So we're never going to have that argument.
Yeah, I mean, you're somebody who just like, look, gods are BS, and you're not afraid to tell people why, and I admire that.
And I accept the reality that I actually take a belief position that there are no gods.
It's funny. I don't know if you watched
because you can't know everything.
Here's a plug for my show with Fuzz Ron. Did you watch Agree to Argue today with him? I know you were sleeping because flat Earth's not a thing. So time zones.
Dude, it's three in the morning.
Well, if you get a chance,
no, I haven't yet, but I do intend to.
Yeah, give it a chance to watch it. It was basically more of an introduction. We're going to do a little more production value, kind of like this. They're going to have overlays, but that was kind of an intro thing for the first episode. But one of the things I had mentioned is I see a lot with the not to diverge too much into this topic, but I see what's called a modem Bailey, where a person proffers a particular position, like, hey, you know what, gods are BS, gods are impossible, and then when challenged on it, they go to the Bailey, which is, oh well, I'm just saying that I just don't have a belief. That literally is a logical fallacy called a modem Bailey fallacy, and so I see that quite frequently. That's the one about Chris. He's not afraid to say it. He's like, hey, you know what? Gods don't exist. Let me tell you why.
Nope.
I love that. I think that's the best way to go about
it's not a lack of belief with me. Yeah. That being said, I never want to define what people can classify themselves as whatever the hell they want. It's a good mate of mine, Jay, Nevermore Tavern.
Oh yeah.
He's a secular Buddhist.
Yep.
Now, he doesn't believe in anything supernatural, doesn't believe in anything spiritual, but considers himself a Buddhist. I'd probably say, well, it's probably more an atheistic or agnostic point of view from how I see it. But he calls himself a secular Buddhist.
I have no problem with that whatsoever. Again, I'm the one that's been out there for years saying, look, let people define themselves the way they want to be described as for themselves, right? Don't tell people what they are. I think that's one of the most height of intellectual dishonesty when you say, look, I'm going to use my particular usage of a term to describe somebody else.
Exactly.
You can do it for yourself. If you want to say, hey, look, my position is blah, 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 blah. I did that years ago. I used to actually, people made way back when, I used to kind of describe myself as called a apatheistic, agnostic, theological, and cognitivist. And but here's the thing. I recognize over time there were some problems with that, and I refined my position, right? And I think that's what a lot of us should do, and they don't do enough, is that we don't constantly try to refine our positions. Because I thought to myself, okay, I want to convey it. Is this exactly what I'm trying to convey? And it didn't convey what I wanted to convey. So now I'm just agnostic, and I think that theological cognitivism has some issues to it. But I'm still I'm still an apatheist in some regards. I don't really care, for the sake of the discussion, whether God exists or not. Does that make sense? Sure, would I like to know? But when we're having a dialogue on theology or something like that, look, it's a non-factor.
I think anyone would like to know the answer to any question. It's if a question's posed, like if someone said to me, "Did Steve eat ice cream earlier today?" It's nothing that really matters to me. But if someone asks it, it's like, I do actually want to know the answer now, just because I don't want to not know something. I don't want anything withheld. Is there a God? No, I will stand firm and say, no, there is no God. There is no creation. There is nothing like that. And as such, I consider myself to be an atheist. And that's fine. Now, other people approach it from well, it's just a lack of belief. Okay, cool. It's different. So I
And
would
they're more
say
than
at
they
best, their
can.
atheism,
Absolutely
their
can.
atheism is different to my
Sure.
atheism. It's because I do acknowledge I take a belief position that there is no gods. And I know that, no, I don't know everything. You can't know everything. And I accept that there is that actual leap that I've got to take. But, it's at the same time, I don't have an issue. Anyone can call himself anything. I know people who call themselves Christians who are absolutely, atheist or agnostic, but they call themselves Christians because it suits them in a cultural context.
Yeah, no,
or a societal
and
context.
again, I understand that there is cultural Christianity, right? Again, you're allowed to
Yeah.
describe yourself in a way that again works for you. Now, for example, like I'm a non-believer. Let's say I went to some Christian functions. I don't want to be referred to as a Christian or a cultural Christian either at that point, because that even if I had a family where that was really knee deep in going to church on Sunday and saying prayer for dinner time, it's not me, right? And so I'm allowed to describe myself the way that I think best describes me. Now, I put a picture up real quick with the evangelicals, how radical they seem to kind of look here. By the way, that woman there looks like somebody I actually know. But it says Lord Jesus for President Trump, right? As if like God has propped him up there to be the savior of humanity. And I think he really does believe that I don't think, okay, let me rephrase that. I don't think he's actually believing that he's appointed by God, but I do think that he's sitting there going, hey, these people, they think that I'm appointed by God.
Oh, hell yeah. Of course he's thinking it. But the irony is, and if you actually read what Jesus is all about, Jesus is a communist. Sell everything, get rid of it, have no possessions. Give everything. He feeds people and doesn't charge them. Jesus ain't a capitalist.
He was a liberal, to say the least. So he's a social liberal.
He
would not be a fan of Trump. I mean, what has Trump done that you consider to be something that, okay, again, I don't like saying only no true Christians fallacy, right? But I mean, when you think of Christianity, you generally think of certain things. They want to like be, good to each other and love and harmony to some degree. Now, there's a lot of Christians out there that don't do that. There's some pretty shitty Christians, let's be honest, right? But for the most part,
there's shitty people everywhere.
Yeah, but for the most part, Christianity is like Jesus is love, and so therefore be good to people. And I agree with that approach. That's fine. But what has Trump done to make you? If you were an independent observer, and I said, hey, Chris, give me one thing that Trump has done that you would say would instantiate what a Christian value would be. What would you have anything? Because I can't off the top of my head. I honestly can't.
No, nothing. Well, the only thing I could possibly think of, and it's really minor, is he takes $1 in pay. He donates his pay, but realistically, that's me stretch. That's a stretch. I mean, but no, look. He doesn't act in a way that's biblical. It's just the right in America is so entrenched with Christian theocracy. And he plays to that a bit, but I mean, look, even things like a lot of the laws that the Christian right try and put in place, realistically, they're not actually entrenched in biblical values. I mean, things like it's with pro-choice, pro-life, anything like that. The pro-life position is not a biblical position. It never has been, but somehow it's almost corrupted its way in there. So you look at a lot of these things, and look, I think if from a purely theological point of view, and I come from a prosperity gospel evangelical.
Oh, you were like an Olsen, Joe Osteen kind of thing.
Oh no, actually, he was even too much for us. But
wow.
But no, it's I understand prosperity doctrine, but he's like to the extreme of prosperity doctrine.
Yeah, it's called greed.
Oh yeah, look, he's once again. It's Joel Osteen is basically he's Tony Robbins with God.
Yeah. I'd say yeah. It's so funny. A lot of people may not remember Tony Robbins, but he was a self-help kind of guru. But there's a lot of similarities there. I definitely would agree with you there.
Oh, absolutely. That was one of the biggest criticisms we used to have, because there'd always be this preacher's on that preacher, Joyce Meyer. The women in the church I was at, they loved Joyce Meyer, and we used to cringe at her because we'd be going, oh, she is just too much.
Well, you were big into the whole Trinity Broadcast Network and all that. Any of that?
Our version of it, yeah.
Your version
of it. So. Look, I used to have the Kent Hovind DVD collection. It was given to me as a gift.
Someone clip that, please.
I used to.
We'll use that later on.
No, there's some. It's and I'll send you the link one day. There's a video of me back in the day interviewing a fellow called Fred Nile, and Fred Nile is he's like he's probably like a typical Republican, but in Australia he's Christian, evangelical, and a politician. He actually runs the Christian Democrats over here, which he's the only one who's ever sat in Parliament for. Oh, sorry, it's one of the few who's sat in Parliament for them. There's good video on me out there if you look hard enough.
So I guess we're supposed to comment on the baby's face here. The baby's face here looks like he's confused. I mean, his mother looks like she's ready to like have Trump's baby. She's that's a fanatic right there, right? But I mean, that baby just looks like what?
That is
cute,
unfortunate. That is an unfortunate frame on a photo there, isn't it?
Yeah.
No. It's certainly it's a good one for the I guess at a 21st. It's when the embarrassing pictures are brought up. Have a look at your mum.
So let me ask you. Oh, by the way, yes, Chester points out there's a lot of blondes in that picture, right? I mean, there's a lot of diversity there. I've noticed. It's like they photoshopped like one or two people and kind of just threw them around. Which, by the way, has happened.
Everyone's going for the classic Kent Hovind haircut.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: what do you think that you kind of regret worse? Being somebody who at one time thought the Earth was young, which, by the way, I never did. I was a theist, but I never.
No, I never thought the Earth was young.
Okay, so even though you had Kent Hovind, you never thought that.
That was actually what led me away from
Okay.
Christianity. I held a position for a little bit. You know what? I really don't know. I don't know enough about it. I guess I was agnostic on it, and I'd sit back and watch the Hovind DVDs with people. But the guys I lived with, they were very much
But you were an idiot, and you were watching this, going, "Wait a minute, wait, what?"
well, my deconversion actually started when I was doing my Bachelor of Theology, and it was an Old Testament class and talking about Genesis. And I actually said to the, I'm going to loosely use the word professor. I said, okay, well, how can an old Earth creation model fit within Genesis? Because, there's obviously different views. And he said, what? He said, do you believe in evolution? I said, well, yeah. I said, I actually do think evolution is the most likely model. The entire class laughed at me, and at that point I went, something's not right here. People are just being fed beliefs. There's actually no learning. There's no actual inquiry, and it actually led me to start questioning and looking at a lot of different things. And years later, here I am.
I was in the same boat. I even in like 5th and 6th grade, we weren't really taught evolutionary theory, but back even in 6th grade, I did like science. I had liked science all my life. So I knew a little bit about it, right? Granted, I probably had some misconceptions, but I mean, I generally understood some biology. We had biological courses early on in my education. In fact, I got to dissect a cow heart in like 5th grade. But I would go to these like after school every so often. I'd go to somebody invite me. Hey, we're having a meeting at the church tonight. Christian type thing. And I would go, and they would have a band playing. They'd all be like, all getting into the spirit stuff like that, trying to for the kids, right? I mean, you were high school students, but they wanted to hey, we're cool. Come join Jesus, kind of thing.
Wait, yeah, come and the skateboard ramps here. Oh yeah.
But then you listen to them, and I'm like, I was like, I don't fit in here, because they would ask me my positions on things, and my positions weren't well formulated. But there was a core there of I don't accept this, right? I later did become a Christian, when I joined the Mormon Church. Although I pointed out on the Agree to Argue, even when I was a Mormon, I never really felt like I was a Christian. I didn't really understand how being related to Christ. Now, I understood the Mormonism, but I never had that one-on-one thing with Christ. I never had Christ talk to me or appear to me, or in any way did I feel spiritual in that regard. I thought I had a spiritual experience, but it wasn't directly related to Christ by any means. And so when you call yourself a Christian and they say, well, we have this personal relationship with Christ, I don't know what that means, to be honest with you. I'm not trying to diminish what they mean it as, but I don't know what it means personally, only because I didn't ever had that. I don't know if you did, or you thought you did.
Look, I certainly thought I did. In hindsight, now I obviously hold a different opinion. Look, it's when you're surrounded by a lot of people who are in a certain mood. There's certain music playing. emotion gets into it, I think a part of your brain turns on and wants to believe. And I mean, as
Because you want to fit in, though,
a
right?
sentient, well, look, there's part of it. I mean, and my conversion happened because I was I probably was missing a community. You know, I needed it very much filled a gap in my life for a period of time. But ultimately, yes, there is a very strong emotional feeling, and there's certainly intuition comes in. I mean, it's similar to, I guess, the people who think they're psychics. You know, where they'll have a feeling about something. It's probably very similar to that. But I mean, you know, I used to pray in tongues. You know, I'd pray healing over people, and I was truly believing that what I was doing was spiritual, was divine in nature, and obviously there's some part of the brain that releases endorphins to sort of get you going with that. So yeah, okay. There's certainly some things that I know happened, but I can't explain. I know that they're a chemical reaction, but that's not my area of expertise. But I can obviously recognize that now.
Yeah.
But look, and I guess it's even thinking about it now, it's strange. I actually did a video with YouTuber Navadia, where she actually asked me to teach her how to pray in tongues. And so we prayed in tongues together, and it was the weirdest friggin' thing. And even
I got to see that.
As I started,
can you link that if you find it?
I would
watch that.
I'll find the video. So on Navadia's page, but I'll find that. And actually, I can't link because I. So
you like legit having a conversation, praying back like in tongues together.
Oh yeah. It's I taught her how to pray in tongues. I started praying in tongues, but then as I'm doing it, it was like this weird sensation. And it was afterwards. I said that was freaky. It's because a lot of those sensations came back, even though I really knew that I was just kind of.
Well, yeah, but here you know, there's kind of a interesting thing. If you know you're doing the speaking in tongues, which by the way is supposed to be a gift from the Holy Spirit, especially within the Protestant. Yeah. It's a Protestant thing, isn't it? Is it Protestant or is it?
Well,
Pentecostal.
In the Pentecostal movement, it's a sign of you get saved and you get prayed over to speak in tongues.
So when you're speaking in tongues now, you know. No offense, but being an atheist who believes that God does not exist, God's probably not sending the Holy Spirit down to you to pray in tongues when you're speaking in tongues nowadays.
No.
Right. So I mean,
no, but that sensation still came
the sensation. Yeah, because I do think there's a lot of chemical things that go on in the brain when you're dealing with these types of things. A fun fact, by the way, if you look at the sign in this particular position, the person in black, that's actually Red's rhetoric. Your people in the live chat pointed that out. So that is Red's rhetoric at that Trump rally in black, sign covering his face. Prove me wrong. Okay. Yeah.
Well, if anyone wants to argue with you, Steve, you'll go after him. You'll go him.
I'll just
block. We all know that. So
I'll just block them and spend 4 years of my life dedicated to character assassinating them, because that's what rational people do, right? But I do want to backtrack a little bit here because I know we're kind of pressed for time because I do want to do it at the 90-minute mark. But let me kind of backtrack to remember back in June that Trump had that photo op with the church, the St. John's Church.
Yes.
Okay. So you and I had a little bit of a disagreement on the authoritativeness that he had by dispersion of the protesters there in order to have that photo op. I think it was very authoritarian. I think it was a very reminiscent things that you'd find in Korea or in China. I don't think that the military should be used that way. And it wasn't a matter of just, hey, we need security. Obama walked down the street with hundreds of people in back of him and stuff like that. I don't buy into that. It was a show of force.
Yeah, but that was a very different situation. I think we can all agree that Obama was treated differently than Trump has been.
Well, that might be the case, right? I mean, there's probably merit to that
for good or bad.
But you know, I mean, Trump wanted his photo opportunity, and I put up on the screen here. I have 4 images here that I'll show. But this first one, you know, it's just basically him standing there in front of the church with his Bible in hand, going, "Hey, look, you know, I have my Bible, I have my church." Just to stage this, there was really no reason for him to go to this church. Whatsoever, in my opinion. I mean, granted, there was a fire at the church, I guess, not too long before, and of course, this was during the protest. But this was something that he had to do in order to say to the evangelicals, "Look, I'm in charge. Here's my Bible. God is leading me. I am the way. I'm the life. I am the person that you have to like look for salvation of America.
Mhm.
I mean, he doesn't come across as some kind of like iconic figure here that he's like, look to me. I'm the man of God here. And to me, it's so
Yeah.
ridiculous.
See, there's a little bit more to this story, and that's the thing. Incidentally, I've just in our private chat, because I can't link in the YouTube chat because I don't have the blue spanner. But I've just put in our private
How do
chat
you
the
not have a
video
blue spanner?
with tongues.
You should have a blue spanner.
I don't, I don't get invited to the secret meetings either, so there's a lot of things going on
I don't
here.
have a lot of mods now these days. But if I'll make your mod because I want you to have a ability to on this channel when we do these. So if you say something in chat, I'll give you mod right now. But where'd you put it? Because I don't see it in the live chat. I don't see it in the secret
It's in our
chat either.
private chat it's in our secret chat in StreamYard. So
I don't see it. Maybe I'm missing it.
don't you?
No, I don't.
That's all right.
Let me make you.
Well, that's okay. I'll put it in the chat. But okay, so let's get back to Trump in this photo op. Okay, so what's happened is you've got the protesters who are surrounding the White House. Now, Trump had asked I believe it was the mayor I don't think it's a governor in DC, but the mayor of DC to have the police move them, which is normal, which is the police control it. The mayor refused. So the mayor's a Democrat mayor. The mayor decided to take a political stance. So Trump took a political stance and he brought the army in. Now, both of them are in the wrong and they're both playing politics and it's basically a big pissing competition. Trump walking across the road was so he could say, I will get the army involved, and if these Democrat mayors won't do as they're told,
but that's a show of force. That's to say, look, I'm the authoritarian
Absolutely
here. I am the man in charge. Don't question my orders.
The Democrat mayor was doing the same thing. They're both doing it.
Well, I mean,
it was a giant pissing competition.
I agree with that. But who has the power there? I mean, it is the mayor's state. I mean, he does have some say. So it was a pissing contest. Not going to disagree with you on that.
Yeah.
But why is it so important for Trump to show people, look, I have the power here when peaceful protesters pay the price of it? As a matter of fact, there's a law professor scholar that actually said the dispersal of the peaceful protesters in Lafayette Square was a monstrous violation of American venerable right of assembly. So the right of assembly we hold to be a venerable right. We hold it to be something that we in America, that you have the right to peaceful protest. Right now, people can actually argue when it comes to George Floyd's protests. Many of them weren't peaceful. And the looters, the rioters, that's not America. That's not
that's not protest.
That's crime. That's
Yeah.
criminality. But when we're talking about peaceful right to protest, I think that is the definitive American's right to do that. And I do think that Trump stepped on that. I honestly think that he violated their rights for peaceful protest just because he wanted a photo op. I find there's some constitutional issues there.
See, I don't. I think at the end of the day, the president of the United States wanted to leave the White House. There's protocols in place for when the president wants to leave the White House. People understand that, you can't just bang on the president's car or walk up to the president. It's just not what happens. It wouldn't happen with any president. Look, I remember when Barack Obama wanted to play golf. And a wedding, these people had their wedding cancelled because they had it on the golf course. Obama wanted to come and play. That's what happens with American presidents.
But I mean, I get that. I mean, there has to be certain kinds of securities things. But I think the best refutation I have to you is just you're a poopy head. There you go.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah, there you go. That's the ultimate wild card, right? I mean, the ultimate defeat of everything. Play that card. You're a poopy head.
Damn it, I would have gotten away with it there too.
So close.
But look, at the end of the day, it is the job in that case when it's. And look, realistically, all it was, they weren't stopping them from assembling. They just had to move where they were assembling.
But they did so forcefully, right? I mean, I think it was a very, very over the top show of force, and I think that they wanted to have a show of force.
Of course, it was because you know what, the protest leaders, they want that sort of look it up, we're the martyrs. They want the police to be whacking them. And of course, from the other side of it, Trump is basically trying to say, hey, if you're not going to, if these mayors are going to ignore the rules, ignore what is meant to be done, and look, what should have been done by the mayor is The police should have come in and moved the protesters on. That's the arrangement that there is with, which has always been in place. That the mayor just decided that what she was going to do was she was going to, which is what a lot of the Democrats are doing at the moment, especially in an election year. I mean, everything that happens this year is because of the election. Standing up to Trump and I'm not going to. Trump is evil. He's literally Hitler. So I'm going to say no, because you know what? In Washington D.C., where I believe 85% of people vote Democrat, that's a great thing for a Democrat mayor to, politically. That's smart. That is very, very smart.
I think right now it is probably wise for the political people wanting to stay in office or they're running for office to actually distance themselves from Trump. That's
certainly on the Democratic side.
On the Democratic side, absolutely, yeah. It's a death nail on the Republican side, but they're going to get voted out too. I think a lot of them. But I think for the Democrats, you want to show opposition to Trump. That's what your base is looking for. Now, this photo here, I think, is probably, and I use this term loosely, my favorite. It is like him. He looks so. I'm not going to say uncomfortable, but he looks so forced. Like, hey, look. Here's the Bible.
It's like, I've got it.
This is like one of the dumbest photos I've ever seen in my life for somebody who's professing to be a Christian, holding up a Bible and going, hey, look, evangelicals, I got you guys, because I got this, which I probably never read, and I don't know what 2 Chronicles is. It's,
2 Chronicles, you mean?
2 Chronicles, 2 Corinthians, Chronicles, Kings, whatever. I mean, he just...
all of it,
Yeah, he's probably never even opened the book.
Look, it's and look, once again, it's that photo op. He's and you got to remember, okay, so Trump's base, they're in Middle America. They're looking at all these riots happening in the city, just thinking it's and all these these nasty evil Democrats who are standing up, and there's Trump, and he's gone and he's walked to his church and he's shown him, and he's got the Bible in hand. Jesus loves America. He's playing to his audience. He's making sure that those people, because then look, those people aren't going to go out and vote for Joe Biden, but he also wants to make sure that they go out and vote for him. So he's got to play that part. From a political point of view, as annoying as the whole thing is, but from a political point of view, it's probably the smart move. Yeah, I'll agree. Moral, ethical, okay, maybe there's another conversation to be had there. Look, my opinion is it was. I put the blame on both Trump and the DC mayor for this one, because they've both backed themselves into the same situation. And look, I have no doubt that the DC mayor knew exactly what was going to happen. Oh, sure, yeah, of course, yeah. And you know what? It's just like the Cuomo in New York. I think he's getting a big BLM painted on the streets, or a mural, and it's going to happen outside of Trump Tower. It's all this posturing. Absolutely, it's all posturing. It's like, who can hate Trump the most? Whoever hates Trump the most wins. Yeah, that's kind of what the game is nowadays, especially in the because like you said, it's a political year. Somebody Cheshire had mentioned that this looks like it's photoshopped, and the reason being why it looks like it's photoshopped, because actually somebody did take this picture and photoshopped it with Hitler with the same pose with the Bible, which wasn't really the case. It was a doctored photo. But as Chris points out earlier, when people put out this fake news, when CNN puts out these news and people put out these manipulated photos, it doesn't do anybody any good. All it does is makes matters worse. To say, look, here's Trump doing the same thing that Hitler did. Hey, look, I'm not going to relate Trump to Hitler. There's just no comparison. I mean, as a historian, As a historian, it really pisses me off when people do that, because hate Trump as much as you can. You can think he's the worst president. You think I think it's horrible, everything. But there's a whole different levels. Hitler's only second to Stalin in the biggest monsters of the 20th century. And if you go and read what these people actually did, and if you still think that that's what Trump is, well, then you need your head read. Yeah, it's just pure hyperbole. it's
Well, how about this
frustrating.
photo?
As a historian.
This is a very similar photo when he's sitting there. He's standing there, and by the way, it says Sunday services online. All are welcome. The Reverend, so it shows that there's some kind of religiosity going on there with the church. And he's holding this book. It's like he doesn't know what to do with it, right? And he's holding it. By the way, you can't even open it because he has his hand on before you actually open it. But he does like, what is he doing with the Bible here? I don't know what he's supposed to be doing with it. It seems like a very oddly staged photo op to me.
Look, it's yeah, the whole look. In reality, the whole thing. And look, I want to be very clear here. I'm not a Trump fan. If I was in the US, I probably just wouldn't vote. I'm not a Trump fan by any means. This is all staged politics. This is all marketing. This is an election year. Everything that happened, look, assume that anything any politician does this year is purely for the sake of the election.
But I hate that because you never know what they actually believe. That they're just doing it to get elected, and that's the kind of worst politician that I would vote for. I don't want to have a politician that just wants to get elected. Now they run the argument: look, we don't have to really give our personal positions because all we're doing, we have to get elected to be able to do something, and in order to get elected, we have to play the game. I understand that to a degree. But at the same time, when you're just doing something to merely get elected, which goes against what you actually stand for, I have some ethical consideration problems with that. But real quick, Karasa for 5,000, where's a Korean won, I think it is. He says, "Oh dang, didn't know this was up. Good luck to atheist pastor and his waistline. Hee hee. Are you on a diet or something?"
Yeah, we've actually, over on my channel, one of the things, we've got a bit of a group within the community. We're doing what's called the 6-pack challenge. It's a bit of a weight loss. There's a competition, a bet on between myself and Jay from the Nevermore Tavern. We're racing to see who can lose 30 pounds.
30 pounds?
30 pounds.
Damn, how much do you weigh? If I don't mind me asking, is it too personal a question?
I was 120 kilos, which 1 kilo is 2.2 pounds. Yeah. So... Do the maths on that, about 270,
280, something like that, yeah, give or take.
So far in the 3 weeks, 125 kilos. 120 kilos I was. 120, all right. I was. So, but now I'm down to 115. So I've lost about 11 pounds. So
your takes 264, 270, give or take, 265.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. I lost a little over 3 pounds the other day in one go, and here's how I did it. This is actually true. I diet too, and I was about 210.4 last like a year or so ago, and I wanted to get under 200. So I lost 10 pounds. I did a very fastidious diet. I mean, I mapped it out using spreadsheets. I mean, literally counted calories, my protein, my carbohydrates, the whole 9 yards for about a couple months, and I did drop down. I have put on a few pounds since then, but not much. But I wanted to get back down to I want to get like 195, 197, which I'm trying to do now. But I used to have the scale in my bathroom, right? But people kept like walking into it kind of stuff. And so I have it on a shelf out here. And then when I want to use it, I put it on the ground and I use it. What I didn't realize was every time you take the scale off the ground, you have to recalibrate it. And all of a sudden, yeah. And so all of a sudden, when I moved it, I noticed I gained like 3.3 pounds, I think it was. And I was like, it's like a 1.5 kilo. I'm like, how the hell am I 200 and, I think it was like reading 206 pounds. And I'm like, I knew I put on a couple pounds, but I'm nowhere near back getting to 210 pounds.
Take the win.
And so, but here's what happened. I calibrated it, right, according to how you're supposed to do. And all of a sudden, I'm now it's like 2.2.7 now. So I'm getting there. It was like 203.2 or something. So I had lost like 3 some odd pounds just by calibration of it. And I was like, thank you, Jesus, because I was like, I don't feel like I'm gaining weight here. It's really odd to me. So because I was like, I'm eating cucumbers for Pete's sake. I'm gaining 3. What the hell happened?
I'm getting sensible with my food, but I mean, it is my dream in life to actually pioneer the KFC diet and lose weight off it. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Now, see, not KFC. KFC down here sucks. I'm sorry, KFC. You're never going to sponsor Popeye Chicken or Churches. Yeah, hit me up. I'm big fan. But yeah, I do like fried food, but. I want to get down under 200, which I'll probably be by next month. I'm well on my way because my diet's working now. Because before it's like, I don't know how I gained all this weight in a matter of like 2 days. I mean, it really was because I moved my scale. But Yeah, more power to you, man. It's not easy.
No,
30 pounds
and
is
that's
a
the thing.
lot.
It's look, it is, but it's
What's your height,
and
by the
look,
way?
I'm 6 foot.
Okay, so you're the same height as me. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm look, I'm heavy for, and look, I'm pretty well built up
You're
here,
stocky, yeah.
but
I wouldn't take you on in the
I've got
ring,
a little
man. You'll
bit.
kick my ass.
I'd just sit on you.
Yeah, I'd be done.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's look, one of the things that I sort of put a video out and sort of realized that, you know what, I need to start looking after myself. So I made myself accountable. Did a video, put it out, and then got contacted by a stack of people who were saying, "Hey, we're in the same boat." So we've actually put together a group called the Six Pack Challenge. It's just basically a bit of a support group within the community where we're all just sort of encouraging each other, keeping an eye on what's going on.
No, that's awesome.
It just kind of just evolved
I am
out of
all
that.
for that. Like I said, I've been trying to eat right. A matter of fact, every so often I'll show a dish that I made, online, or I'll tell Cheshire what I'm making for dinner, or I'll tell Sweet. But every so often, like last night, I wanted to make a caramel sauce. I didn't have any heavy cream, so it didn't come out perfect. But just like sugar and butter, and I made some caramelized apples because I wanted something really sweet. Because I don't eat a lot of sugars, carbohydrates. I really do minimize. I don't even eat don't even like breads that much any longer. I really maintain more high good fat and protein.
So like a keto diet sort of thing.
I'm more like a paleo, but I don't go into ketosis. When you're doing a keto diet, your body goes through hell. I mean, your liver starts processing ketones rather than glucose, and so you're really changing how your body functions. Your entire metabolism works, and you get sick off of it and stuff like that, and not in a bad way. It's just that the way your body's processing it. But I don't go into that kind of thing. But I'm just trying to cut down my calories. And here's a fun fact: if you expend more calories than you intake, you will lose weight. That's just biological fact. So I do count my calories. I'm right now about 1,500, about 1,800 per day. My BMI, or my base metabolism for calories is about 1,850. For even a sedentary lifestyle, that translates to about 2,100, which you should be for your nutrition. So I'm a little bit under that, and it takes 3,500 calories to lose 1 pound of fat. 3,500 calories, and so you have to have a huge deficit in order to lose weight. And I try to lose about 1 to 2 pounds a week is what I'm going for right now, because I'm, again, back on my diet, even though I splurged last night with that whole caramel sauce. It came out pretty good.
That's all right.
But no, dude, I'm telling you, I am in awe that you are willing to do that, and you have a support group for it, because it is not easy to lose.
There's
weight.
there's a lot of people who have been in a situation. I think it's a situation we've all been in, where because we've been locked up inside, gyms are closed, you can't necessarily get out and walk.
Yeah, I don't walk. I used to walk every day. I used to really walk a mile every day. I go to the bus stop and I would go shopping. I would go in town and I would use public transportation a lot. I haven't walked to the bus stop in 2 months, 3 months maybe, because my roommate has given me rides, but I haven't walked anywhere. And so that's about 100 calories a day that I'm missing out on, which over a month is 3,000 calories. That's a pound a month.
That's a pound. There's a pound.
Right. So it really does suck. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, it's very easy to do, and I think it's also very easy when you sort of you're locked in, and I mean, we're lucky in Australia at the moment. We're out of it all, so we're out of lockdown now. But when we're in lockdown, you know what? It was very easy to, it's Tuesday night. Stuff it, I'm gonna have a beer. I don't have to be anywhere tomorrow morning. It's very easy to get into those
I like
bad
to have
habits.
a beer. I mean,
every day is a Friday night. Every day is a Saturday night because you're not at work the next day. So it's very easy to get into those bad habits. And yeah, it was amazing when I sort of put the video out. A lot of people got in touch. And look, anyone who does want to, just send me a message on Twitter, and I'll add you to the group. And there's a lot of support.
I would actually love to talk about nutrition stuff with
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
I've had to learn a lot about it. I did take nutrition in school, but what's funny is I've learned more just on my own learning about nutrition than I ever did in college. I mean, it's just, because I wanted to learn how to actually diet properly, and it is a science to it. I mean, people have seen my spreadsheets. I have broken it down to a science, but we got to get going here. But I'll tell you one thing. One of the best things you can do for diet is this: drink a lot of water, about 2 liters a day. These are 500 milliliters each, so about 4 of these. Now, I hate to say it, but I do cheat because I'm frugal. I use tap water. I bought 40 of these, but I kind of mix. What it is when I'm really thirsty, I'll pop open a new one, right? But then I'll refill it with tap water, put it in the fridge, and what I do is I mix that with. Sometimes I drink it straight, but then what I do is I make that in my tea, right? So I use tap water for tea, and I don't notice a bit of difference. It doesn't taste any different than water straight out of an unopened thing. So
yeah.
And I drink a lot of water.
Bottled water is the greatest marketing scam that was ever invented.
This is diet water.
I take my hat off to the person who came out with it.
Yeah, organic diet water is gluten-free.
Diet water.
Dude, literally, I buy the cheap stuff. When I say I'm frugal, people don't even know. Because water's water. I'm sorry. The only water that tastes a little different is Dasani. Dasani's good because they have these little minerals. But as far as like just pure drinking water, purified or distilled water, it all tastes the same to me. I get the cheap stuff. I'm not going to spend $5 on Fuji.
I don't even buy the plastic bottle. I've just got the refillable drink bottle. Yeah. It's just keep going. It's good for you. It's the best thing. It cleanses you. It cleans out your system. So
yeah, exactly. And by the way, a lot of weight loss actually is water loss if you're not hydrated properly. But you actually lose more because your body is allowed to. You filter out a lot more when you're hydrated. But we're going to kind of leave everybody with this photo here. This again. I think this is actually, I said that last photo was probably my favorite. That's
an unfortunate photo, isn't it? That is an unfortunate photo.
And they put it out there. I mean, when I first saw this photo, the first thing that came to my mind, and it's still there, is he's thinking to himself, what the hell am I looking at? There's a look of confusion on his face. He's not like contemplating it. It's not like saying, oh, book is, holy and it's the inspired word of God. He's looking at it going, what the hell is this? This is so confusing.
He's probably looking at it going, this friggin' book is what's winning me support.
That might be true too. But this sums up his entire, I think, our discussion when it comes to the evangelical base that he has. It's one big show, one big act.
What's going to be interesting, and Trump's always in sales mode. He's been campaigning for this election since he won the last one. What's going to be interesting is, and look, I think Trump will win, which isn't a personal preference on my point of view. It's, as far as I'm concerned, I think they're both as bad as each other. But I think Trump's going to win. And what will be interesting is when he's not running for another term, he can't get in again. That's it. What's his second term going to be like? Because I think his second term will be very different. I think you'll get a more authentic version of who he is. I think the placating
when he doesn't have to worry about being reelected.
Yeah,
the Second Amendment, he can't be reelected again. He only have 2 terms.
No,
but
unless one of his sons or daughters decides to run, in which case he might.
He might have a position in the cabinet. It's a whole different topic. But I'm not convinced that he's going to win the second term. I was convinced he was going to win the first term. I did think that he was going to win, but the second term, I think there's just too many problems. His approval rating is down around 38% now. By the way, Biden, I don't know why they're picking these people. I don't understand why we can't get a single solitary decent candidate for presidency. I don't
Hillary
understand
would be better at the moment. At least Hillary she went on the attack and was effective.
Oh my God. But I still think Biden has a significant chance only because Trump's popularity has been dwindling, and there's a few key states that if he loses, he claims that he can lose a lot more in the Electoral College than I think he can. Matter of fact, we're going to have this topic with Landon, Kurt Knoll on my channel, and probably I think he wanted to do it after a certain time, and I can't remember what we're waiting for. But what we are going to talk about eventually the geopolitical landscape of the Electoral College, but I don't think that he has the momentum that he had going in against Hillary, because a lot of people that voted for him were just, hey, look, anyone but Clinton, right? And I was one of those people. I'm like, hey, look, anyone but Clinton, let the world burn. Now, I will admit this, and I've said this before. People say Steve doesn't admit his wrongdoings and mistakes. Well, that's BS. I was wrong on this, is that I knew it was going to be bad. I had no idea how bad it was going to be. I did not think that it was capable for a sitting president to do half the shit that Trump has gotten away with. I just never crossed my mind that the world would burn to this degree. And the outcoming of that is the fact that look at what's going on with the world pandemic crisis. He has mismanaged it beyond measure. And this is a testament to his incompetence for somebody who needs to be a leader in times of crisis.
You know what? I
think it's going to affect him. I think it's going to affect him in the polls.
I'm actually loath to stick up for him on that, because I think the way that the United States has handled the crisis is a joke. I mean,
yeah, of course it is.
Like the rest of the world's looking at America just going like, what is wrong with it?
And as well as they should. Look, I'm a patriot. I served in the military. I defended the Constitution. I love this country. But God dang, we totally screwed the pooch on that. There's no question.
Yeah. But the thing is, the way the United States is structured is it's different to every other country in the world. The United States isn't one country. It's 50 countries with a central administration. And that's the problem you've got. The way the United States is. So there's nothing federally that could be done because it's got to be done individually at the state level. And what you're seeing is you see some states that are going okay, you see some states that aren't, and it all depends on what they've put in place. And generally the larger states have had, with the bigger population centers, they've had a lot more issues. And a lot of the Republican states where they're saying, don't wear a mask. The situation you're in America at the moment, if you're not wearing masks out, you're insane. I mean, absolutely insane.
I've got my washable one, right? With my green screen, like that, right? And I've got my this is the medical type one. So I mean, look, I go out, I wear it, and I'm happy to do so. So it
well, I'll tell you something. In Australia, we locked down early. We all had to grit and bear it. It was really, really terrible. It was tough, but we did it. You know what? And guess what? I went out to lunch before. Last if I want to go up to the pub, want to go out and see friends, I can do all that. Because we don't have outbreaks. We had 3 new cases in the state I live in has got 7.5 million people in it. We had 3 new cases yesterday, and 2 of them are from returning travelers who are in quarantine.
See, I live in Riverside County. We had I think it was 4,000 cases. We had 400 new in a day. It's literally because once Gary Newsom lifted the ban a while back, people took advantage of it. They started all socializing again. And to a high degree, because when you're cooped up, they want to party, they want to let out, and they just went hog wild.
Which that's fine, but do that once it's under control.
Changing it back.
I mean, we've just closed down. One of our states has just closed down again. So Victoria, it's the second most populous state. It's where Melbourne is. So there's been an outbreak in Melbourne. They had 170 new cases yesterday, which is huge because we were dealing in the single digits nationally for such a long time, and most new cases that are popping up anywhere in Australia at the moment are because of someone who's come out of Melbourne, or Melbourne as you'd say in the US, just so we don't confuse you. But 170, so that's enough for the government to go, right, Victoria is now in a 6-week lockdown, and everyone's, they're all doing it because they know that that's just what has to happen. But then we have a look over in the US, and it's just like Florida. It's
yeah.
And people complain. They're going and
like
screaming about their constitutional right, and then look, both sides have been bad on this. Protests, riots, things like I get why the protests happen, but far out, do it after the pandemic. It's killing people.
Yeah,
it's killing the vulnerable people in those communities that you're trying to protect. It's fine for you and I because we're in an age and health category where we're fine. But you know what? What about that 70, 80-year-old people who they're the ones who need to be protected at the moment. So you know what? If you're in the US, it's really, really simple. Stay inside.
I mean, it's consideration to other people.
Exactly.
Somebody had mentioned, it was a while back, but I wanted to talk real quick about it. Somebody mentioned about somebody dying from too much water. Yes, absolutely. People have died from too much water. It's called water intoxication. But your body needs a certain amount of water a day to process. Your metabolism, water, by the way, is a nutrient. But you need about 2 liters a day, give or take, right? So it's 8 fluid glasses like this. Is about 8 fluid ounces. So 500 milliliters is a quarter of a liter. So you drink, 4 of these worth of water a day, and you're fine. Now, you don't need to drink 5,000 gallons of water because that will kill you. What happens is it depreciates your electrolytes, and your body just goes into shock and you die. So that's not good. But anyways, no. Chris, why don't you promote your stuff and we could kind of call it to a close. This was actually a really good episode. I actually thought that talking about Trump would be a lot more controversial, but it really hasn't been.
No. Look, it's what could, like I said on Twitter, we're talking about Trump. What can go wrong? No, look, I've enjoyed it. We haven't had a bad one yet, so we'll have to make sure next week's a good one as well.
I'll find something that we just have diametrically opposite positions on or something.
Done. I love it. Love it. I'm keen for the fight. I can't wait for the cult to go after me. It'll be good.
I don't know what it would be, but you know what? I'll put some thought into it. It has been challenging lately because I have been doing Caffeine Corner with Cheshire, which takes a little bit of work. Then of course ATA started. I do Over Under with you. I've been doing shows with Landon. People that are now. I have a friend of mine, like Little Red, messaged me. She's doing some streaming now, and I think people are learning that streaming is not as easy as it appears sometimes. If you've never streamed, it takes a little bit of effort, a little bit of work. These things, don't just happen. But I like to see more people streaming. I like to see that people are getting into it, and then they go, "Hey, by the way, you're right, man. This is nothing you just go learn overnight." I mean, OBS is pretty easy once you get it going and you learn it. But even I still mess up all the time, and I get muted. But yeah, so it's been busy.
When you're streaming it, it's raw. You're getting the opinions. You don't always have the time to sort of think about it, put out the conversation, change your mind, and re-edit it.
It's a lot different than a video, right? I mean, both are challenging. Yeah. Making videos is hard. I've tried it. It's not things that I'm good at, so I don't do them as much. I avoid them. I stay more in the live type of atmosphere. But that's something that I'm used to, right? But a lot of people aren't. The people that do really, like my friend Logic, throwing a name drop there. Logic, he is really a master at making videos. I mean, he does exceptionally good job. But he'll be the first to tell you he hates the live chat. He hates the live stuff. Yeah. Right? It's just nothing that he's really good at.
Different things suit people.
Yeah, it's a different things, right?
As far as what's coming up on my channel, look, every Friday night I've got a show called Friday Night Six Pack, which is basically, it's Friday night for me. It's 7:30 Eastern in the AM for those of you in the US. Basically, the premise behind the show is there's 6 of us. We all have a couple of drinks, because it's Friday night for us, and try and solve the world's problems. So last week we spoke about fringe religions. We've got a few different things that we'll cover. I think we're going to be talking about Scientology this week.
Oh, that's awesome.
It should be a good one.
We had Miscavige on the Non Sequitur show. Ron Miscavige's dad.
Ron Miscavige, yeah.
Yeah, Ron Miscavige. What's his?
Yeah. David Miscavige.
David Miscavige, yeah. He was really personable. Really nice guy.
Look, everything I've seen, he seems like a really nice. I don't know how he did it for as long as he did, but so that's Friday Night Six Pack. I also have Hereticals podcast, which is also on. So my channel is Atheist Pastor /Hereticals. If you just look up Atheist Pastor, you'll find it.
It's in the video description. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of your channel. The only thing I don't like about your channel is the bizarre times you stream. That's it. But if Flat Earth was a thing, we wouldn't have to worry about that. But no, I like your panel. I know you have Jen on, Jay on, and I think pretty much everybody on your show. I kind of have a affinity for.
And we try and get balanced opinions on there as well. Like, Sam, so Vagrant Sam, who he's on every week. He missed last week, but myself and Sam, it's politically we're diametrically opposed. He's very much to one side, and we're both Australians. So, but we're a good balance for each other. I often say that he's the voice of reason, and whenever we need someone to come in with a sensible comment, he comes in with that sensible comment. Then we've got Jen from Jen's Little Corner, Jay from the Nevermore Tavern, and we normally get.
Jen and I don't agree on a lot of things either. We have a lot of differences on our ideological approaches and political spectrum, but man, I have the utmost respect for her.
She's just a cool person.
Yeah, she's very cool.
But ultimately, it's a very relaxed thing. We just sit around. We have a couple of drinks. We have a lot. There's been some pretty messy ones. It's whenever we get to about hour number 4.
Hour number 4. Oh my God! How long do you stream?
Normally it's an hour and a half. I've had to sort of really carefully cap it. But we've had a few that have gone to 4 hours, and it's just getting messy.
Too long. I like 90 minutes to 2 hours. As a matter of fact, we're actually between those two right now. So check his channel out. It's in the video description.
Come to that channel. There's plenty on there. Something for everyone.
I'm gonna leave it with this because we have a suggestion for a topic. We'll see how it pans out. But Ken Hoven's cellmate for $2 says potential subject are hamburger sandwiches. I'm gonna take no. Although I can go either way, and I just don't care. But I don't consider a hamburger a sandwich because when we think of a sandwich, even though technically it might fit the criteria, sandwich to me is a sandwich. A hamburger is a hamburger.
Sandburger. A sandwich is
Hamburger.
two slices. Sandburger. There we go. It's between two slices of bread.
Yeah,
Anyone doesn't like that?
Yeah. So a hot dog is a sandwich now? Oh, this is going to go on. This is going to rage for years now. Thanks, Ken Hovind cellmate. This is why we don't like Ken Hovind and his cellmates. Okay.
I see.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for watching this. Again, these are great. I never thought I was going to be doing political stuff, but I actually found somebody who can hold a conversation on politics. And Chris, thank you very much for it. I'm thrilled that you're doing this. I'll probably replace you next week. Is Mikey Famine available? And you get in touch with Mikey?
Anyone would be better.
Yeah.
Thank you. Always good fun. Everyone out there.
All right. Good night, guys.